Joe's the founder of the Insured Retirement Institute, formerly known as the National Association of Variable Annuities. He's a member of the Fordham University Football Hall of Fame and played rugby for the New York Athletic Club. Plus, he is an author of a book that's doing quite well, Living a Life of Significance. Please welcome Joe Jordan.
Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I guess, by now. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces, and that's a lot of fun. And I also want to tell you that what I'm going to talk to you about is not going to be a normal financial services conversation. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about yourself personally and your commitment to this business, its impact on you. We're going to have some facts and figures there too. But that's where I really want to focus in on what you're doing as a career and also the opportunity that you have. There's one thing that I do want to talk to you about is, which I think is important, is it's always good for us, because I think that's the premise that Vince was starting out with. It's the idea to get an idea of where you fit in the world and what opportunities do you have. And I think it's sometimes good to take ourselves out of our own little world, because sometimes we get too caught up in our own little issues and problems. If you took the 6 billion people in the world and you made them 100 proportionately, what you would find out is 57 of them live in Asia, 24 live in Europe, 14 live in North and South America, 8 of them live in Africa. 51 of them are women, 49 of them are men, and 60 of them can't read or write. 6 people in the world own half the wealth of the world, 5 of them are U.S. citizens, and only one went to college. Now you can imagine that in our environment we think just about everybody goes on to higher education, but that's not the way it is in the world. 1/3 of those people, 1/3 of the world's population is dying because of lack of food, 1/3 is dying because of lack of justice, and the other 1/3 is dying because of overeating. How was breakfast, okay? But I think it's important that you get an idea of the world, and that's what I really like, both in terms of Vince and talking about the idea, Tariq talking about the idea of demographics and the impact of it. Demographics is the future that cannot be changed. And one of the things that you should know about the United States, we're in great shape as it relates to demographics. There are other countries that are not, especially since they have an aging population and great disparity between the aging people and the number of people that are coming up, and I'll discuss some of that too. So that's also another crucial point. So the other thing that I think you're dealing with, and I think Tariq dealt with it, was the idea of change. And we have a lot of change, and you have to deal with it. But remember, Charles Darwin says, it isn't the smartest or the strongest species that survives. It happens to be the ones that are the most adaptable. And Tariq went through a lot of stuff about change, right? All of that stuff, isn't that kind of scary, the way people communicate, and the fact that India has 28% of its population is larger than all of North America. It's not just the United States, and the way Twitter and all this stuff is happening. But let me tell you something. There are some things that don't change. And the most important thing that doesn't change, especially in our business, is the fact that the client has to be the center of everything that we do. Now, I know some of you think I sound like the industry chaplain. I'm not, okay? But let me give you an example. Well, this is a soft issue, okay? Take a look at Goldman Sachs. Can you still trust Goldman? When you create a culture, and I think this happened in financial services, when you create a culture that you begin to call your clients Muppets, that you're there and the only reason the clients are there for their own personal aggrandizement, you get into trouble. And I think a lot of that started to happen in financial services. We were more obsessed with how much money we could make versus the service that we provided to our clients, and got us more distant from it. And I don't think it's a soft issue. I think it is the issue. And I want to share with you, this came from Nick Murray. Nick Murray writes a monthly column, and he said he happened to be on television or something and saw a guy that was on from Goldman Sachs, and they were interviewing him. And then people could write in on the computer. He says, every single posting, and there must have been at least 24 of them, was filled with hatred, suspicion, revulsion, and hostility. Goldman Sachs always lies. Short whatever he says he's buying because Goldman must be selling it. They live to screw the customer. They bribe Bernanke. They all should be in jail. Goldman is the spawn of Satan. Okay? It was a deep, passionate, vitriolic hatred of the capital markets and those who sail them. So the point I'm getting at is I think that's what we got away from. The fundamental issue is, we call it financial services because we are the people who have to serve our clients. And we have to begin to think that way. And I think it will also help to solve a lot of our business problems that we begin to face today. And I don't know what Vince told you, and a number of you have seen me speak before, but I don't know the hype, they hype it up and they say, you got to hear this guy, man. He's like a great motivational speaker. I'm not. Look, how could I possibly motivate you? Look at the profession you've chosen. You talk to people about stuff they don't want to talk about, they don't want to see it, and when they see it, they don't want to buy what you're selling, right? Is this real? I almost feel like Joan Rivers, right? Can we talk, Who the hell talks about this stuff, right? The issue that I would submit is that motivation only goes so far, because I think this business is wrapped with so much negativity and rejection that self-driven motivation isn't enough. I think what you have to do is you got to get inspired, because the beauty of inspiration is it drives you. And so how do you get inspired? Oh, well, by the way, one thing I did do, I forgot about this slide. I did write a book about this issue, Living a Life of Significance. I mean, you got it. The one thing I would tell you is all of the proceeds go to the American College. I don't make any money on it. In fact, while I was with Met up until the end of June, all of my speaking engagements I gave to charity. And since 2006, I've donated $700,000 to different charities. Okay? And I'm telling you that not to impress you, but impress upon you that I think that's my contribution to it's all about what we do. But anyway, let me get back to the other thing, the idea of being inspired. Because inspiration drives you. And how do you do that? I think the first part that you have to look at is your purpose. You've got to believe and know that you can be the most important person in someone's life. That as a result of your actions, either a business or a family can continue, or a legacy is spawned as a result of what you do. And you got to not only know it, you got to believe it. And let me tell you what I think your unique purpose is. Your unique purpose is to make certain that the money outlives the people. That the money outlives the people. See, you've got to insure against what can go wrong, to gain the luxury to invest in what can go right. And let me tell you what I think your value proposition is. Your value proposition is the value of the advice you provide and the products you sell is worth far more than what your clients pay for it. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. And what you really represent is intrinsic value. And intrinsic value is not measured by how much money you make, but by the size of the problem that you solve. And you tell me a profession that solves problems bigger than this. You protect the innocent when someone dies prematurely so that they have peace of mind. You can provide people with a worry-free retirement with an income they can't outlive so that they maintain their independence. You protect that income if they get sick so that they maintain their dignity. And finally, you provide legacy when they die. And you tell me a profession that solves problems bigger than that. But what's important is you got to not only know it, you got to believe it. And believing and knowing are two different things. And one of the things you got to understand is that if your desires, and you know what I mean by your desires? It's your goals. We spend a lot of time in this business goal setting, right? How much production you want to do, what recognition you want, what trips you want to go on, how much money you want to make. If your desires don't sync up with your beliefs, you will always manifest your beliefs. And if you don't really think that you do something significant, worthwhile, or you're value added to others, you can be subject to something that I know nobody talks about in financial services. And that's low self-esteem. When you don't feel good about yourself, you're no good to anybody. And how often do people bring that up in a financial services seminar? And we all deal with it. It's the elephant in the room. And that's one of the things that you have to begin to combat and be cognizant of to make certain that you know that. Carter Woodson said that if you can determine what a person thinks, you don't have to worry about what they will do, because if they take a lower station in life, you don't have to urge them to take a lower station in life, because they'll get there all by themselves. If you can isolate someone and make them feel like an outcast, you don't have to tell them to get up and go out the back door. They get up and do it on their own. And if there is no back door, their very nature will demand one. All chronic production issues are behavioral. And as a result, you have to deal with your own behavior. So how do you do that? You have to create a culture that celebrates the potential impact that you can have on others. Not just the commission you can make, but imagine the different things that I can do for this family. And one of the great things about it is focusing in on protection products. I don't know. I don't find it too inspiring beating the S&P by 6 basis points. Okay? But providing a death benefit or disability waiver, know that you do that. And you have to constantly do that to reinforce the fact that this is worthwhile. This is a meditation. This is a full contact sport. This is not a profession you get in, and what I do and who I am are separate. It's got to be together, because you take the rejection personally, right? So that's what you have to do, is spend time on it. And I submit we don't spend enough time doing it. So how do you do that? That's where you would go to NVRT. That's why you would get the Life Foundation videos. You got to watch that stuff, you know? And don't say, I've seen that video before. Look, it's not entertainment. They don't change the Lord's Prayer, okay? It's a meditation to get you into the right frame of mind relative to the potential impact that you can have on others. We have a producer at MetLife, Jeff Gruen. Some of you probably know him. He's down in Philadelphia. He read my book, and it was really inspiring to me, because I got like 4, because he's a really big producer, like $2 million of GDC a year, and he's one of these very caustic top producer, ice mistress types, you know, very sarcastic, you know. He called me up, he was crying. He had a number of things unresolved with his family. He wanted to get out because he said, I was doing the business for my own reasons, for myself. And he said, you reaffirm the fact that I do something significant and worthwhile. We all want to have an identity to know that we're important, and you have to fight and struggle for that. And it's amazing to me when you look at some of the frivolity of other professions and what they think about themselves versus us. And the only way we're going to do it is bring it up ourselves. Why do you think we have all of this compliance crap floating around? Because a lot of people don't trust us anymore. And I don't think that these regulators are have the wrong intentions, but they're mucking it up. You know, they don't understand the flow of the business, and we ask for it ourselves. The only time we're going to change it is if it comes from us. And that is the idea of beginning to focus back in on the client, because I think that happens to be crucial. So, having said that, I'm not the only one talking about this. Everyone know this guy, Dan Sullivan? Does people know who he is? Yes. Yes, okay. You know, he does this thing, strategic coach. He deals primarily with entrepreneurs. Most of them are in financial services business. He wrote this book, The Good That Financial Advisors Do. Being a financial advisor to upwardly mobile individuals in the 21st century is one of the most important roles in our society. That should make you feel good. But he's not just saying this because he wants you to buy the book. He's a visionary. And what you got to know in the bigger picture of what's going on is just about all of the corporate, governmental, and even cultural safety nets, entitlements that people have grown accustomed to are going away. Most governments funded for this, for retirement, they promised this and they funded that. And that's collapsing. One of the things being driven is because of the longevity and the demographics that's happening. Demographics has a big impact when you have a small generation that's happening. These are the things that are changing the world. And as a result, and what do I mean by cultural? In China, they've had a one-child policy for 30 years. You want to see the demographic cliff they're going to fall off? The huge aging population and a very small population, and even within them culturally, there's not enough grandkids to take care of the grandparents. As a result, that's why you see riots, right? There's riots in Wisconsin, riots in the UK, Greece, and the best, I know you like this, the best, there's riots in France. Yeah! You know why they're rioting in France? They're raising the retirement age from 60 to 62. I've got a retirement date. It's 2 weeks before dialysis. In other words, think about it. We spawned a culture, right? We spawned a culture whereby people can get a profession and they're enriched by that, but they're not fulfilled. And if you're miserable and unfulfilled at 60 when you're working, what the hell do you think you'll be at 62 when you're retired? The same miserable, unfulfilled person you were when you were working. It's like what Billy Joel says, it doesn't matter where you are, you wake up with yourself. And that's why I want to begin to make certain to make the impression upon you on your own. Just don't do this, I want to make some money and get the hell out. Think about the impact you're having on others and have a fulfilling life. Something that not only enriches you, but fulfills you. Because if you're really doing something significant and worthwhile, why don't you want to get out? You can slow down. And that's where we've got to begin to think about the potential impact that we have on others. So, having said that, once you spend time, however you do that, creating this culture, understanding your impact on others, you got to take action. Positive thoughts don't always lead to positive action. but positive action always leads to positive thoughts. So what